My name is Dusty Slay, and I'm your host. And I'm here with my wife and co-host, Hannah Hogan.
Okay.
I told you last podcast I was going to do Hannah Hogan.
Okay.
Because Hannah Slay's your name now, but it doesn't have the same ring to it.
I'm Hannah Hogan, the entertainer, podcaster.
Yeah, Hannah Hogan. That's your name on the podcast.
Yeah.
I'm in a bit of a dispute with the podcast page on Reddit right now because I've been in trouble already. I didn't understand a lot of the Reddit rules, so they don't want you to just go on there and do self-promotion everywhere, which is what I did immediately. But someone asked the question of, who are your favorite female comedians doing podcasts right now? And I said Hannah Hogan from the We're Having a Good Time podcast. And they removed my comment for self-promotion. And I was like, well, someone asked who are funny women and what's the podcast they're doing. And I shared it. I was like, it's ridiculous that you would remove this post.
Just another example of the industry trying to keep me down.
I said, either you support women comedians or you don't. You know, just because I happen to be on the podcast too.
Yeah. People aren't ready for my voice. They're not ready for my voice in comedy. They're not ready for my edge.
Yeah, I mean, we're so far down the road with it now because I'm not on Reddit a bunch that, you know, it's long gone. It's long gone now. It's not even worth the fight, but I'm just annoyed by it. It's like, listen, what's the point of having this Reddit page if somebody on here goes, hey, I'm looking for some strong female voices in the comedy podcasting world right now, and I go, hey, I got one right here for you. I know her very well.
I'll tell you what. Everyone on Reddit is missing out on me.
Yeah.
Everyone.
They are missing out.
The only people that aren't missing out on me right now are the people listening in right now.
Well, that's exactly right. And they are listening in. And I don't know if we're going to do 2 podcasts this week or not. That is my goal, to do this one tonight and then still do another one later in the week because we missed one. And I'd like to get back to our regular Thursday morning podcast out here.
We're doing a Sunday night podcast right now, and that's unheard of.
It is unheard of. But the kids are asleep, and so we're trying to keep it down a bit. But I have this new podcasting studio, but our child is asleep right below us. And we feel good, though. We got a lot going on. Last week, my dad was here, and it's just too hard to podcast with family here because, you know, we have someone to babysit, but I also feel weird breaking away, like being like, hey, you're in town visiting us. We're going to go ahead and break away and do a podcast. And I don't feel like, you know, my dad and his wife, my stepmom, they don't get to come up enough to where the kids really have that kind of relationship with them. My stepmom does well with the kids. My dad, not so much. And it's not that my dad doesn't do well with the kids. The kids don't do well with my dad. And, but, you know, I don't think it's either of their fault. My dad just immediately wants there to be a bond. And the kids are too young to even understand what grandparents are.
Hey, he's like, I know you only see me once a year, but come sit on my lap.
Yeah. Well, it's just like, I try to be like, hey, I'm your dad. He's my dad. But I don't even know that the kids understand the concept of dad. I'm just the guy that she calls dad that's here all the time.
Yeah, you're like God to her, really.
Well, that's too far, I
but
think.
It's that kind of.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, essentially, yeah.
She's all you know.
Yes.
You're the man.
I'm all she knows, yes.
Yeah, you're the man.
Yeah, well, I guess you're right, though, because God the Father, God is a father figure to us. Yeah, yes. I guess you're right. But it's, yeah, so it's like the whole concept of parents and this is my mom, I'm your mom, you know, it's confusing to them. They don't understand it. They're like, this guy's similar to my dad, but older. And that probably freaks her out too.
She probably don't understand what he's saying. His southern accent's so thick.
Yeah.
It's so thick.
But I want them to have a better relationship. But it's just hard. My dad, he tore a retina in both of his eyes, and one eye he had a lot of trouble in the surgery, and so he doesn't see well out of one of his eyes. So my dad's always had bad vision, but when he tore the retina, it really messed him up. So he can't hunt anymore because he can't shoot out of that eye, or he can't see out of that eye very well. So he doesn't drive a lot. He drives around town, but he ain't going to be making a 5-hour drive on the interstate up here. So,
but it was a good visit.
Yeah. So it was a great visit.